The Ninjago franchise has a wide variety of different characters, and because the show is made by LEGO, most of these characters do have a minifigure that goes along with them. But over the years, more and more characters have been introduced that only exist in the show and have never come in sets. Now, because LEGO is made for customization, many fans have made customs of these characters either using official parts or by custom printing. For a few characters though, this is a little bit harder to do because they have unique pieces that don't actually exist physically. So I thought it would be fun to see if I could design some custom 3D printed pieces for these characters, except actually I didn't. I don't own a 3D printer, and I don't know a single thing about 3D modeling. This entire project was done by my friend Matthew, who goes by Radiant Brick Co. over on Instagram. Everything you're going to see in this video was pretty much done by him, the 3D modeling, the painting of the pieces, and the custom decals. I just provided some ideas of which characters to make and some slight feedback on how they should look. But yeah, the project was entirely him. Go check him out on Instagram after this video, it'll be linked in the description below. I know he'll be making some posts about the design process and like what went into these figures. But as for this video, I'm just here to show them off, so let's get into it. I'll open the package that Matthew sent me, and then we'll take a more close-up look at the minifigures. So, the package from Matthew just arrived. He sent me pictures of all these things, but I've yet to see them in person, so I'm very excited to get this open and actually see how these minifigures look in hand. So without further ado, let's just tear straight in. Alright, here we go, and there's some loose pieces in here, it looks like, that are just regular LEGO pieces, but they're the minifigures, which is very, very cool. He also just sent me this red hairpiece, which I don't even know, what even is this? Is this even LEGO? It's not, I think that's a knockoff. Matthew, are you trying to get me in trouble? This, though, this is real, this is one of the D&D Dragonborn heads. I know he got a lot of this minifigure, so I guess he just didn't need this one. I do like these guys, I appreciate it, I'll find some use for it. But now here's the really exciting stuff, the minifigures. Let me open these up. Wow, this is surreal. I think this might be the best one already, Bonzle. She turned out really, really cool. Like, this is pretty perfect. Super cool looking minifigure. We'll take a closer look at her in a moment. Then I think this is the one I was the most excited for, Mr. Frohicky. That face sculpt is really incredible. I love him so much. Then we have Frak, who does not have legs yet, but of course I'll put legs on him in a moment. One of my favorite new characters from Dragon's Rising, so I'm happy to finally have him here. And then here are the prototypes and the unprinted versions of all the pieces, which we'll also take a closer look at in a moment. I actually didn't realize there's a note from Matthew in here too, and looks interesting. Thank you, Bricks by Mind, for your service in buying this project. We're very grateful for your patronage. Please, at my store, shop at my time again. If problem arise, call my servant. It will assist you for trouble. He called servant. I am Matthew. Wow, thank you, Matthew, for this lovely card. Wonderful. Any old Bricks by Mind channel viewers will recognize Matthew's sense of humor. If you're new to the channel, I apologize that this is your first time hearing anything from him. Trust me, the project's very cool. So we're gonna start off with Bonzle, and Bonzle is such a weird character in the show because she's so clearly designed to look like a LEGO minifigure, but also just like breaks so many rules. Because she has like the standard LEGO skeleton torso in the show, but then like the clothing she has on top is designed to look like a regular minifigure torso. And then her head is the Legacy Skulkin head, and it's wearing this hat that typically has elf ears in sets, but a version of that in sets without the elf ears just does not exist. So she's based off official LEGO pieces, but we just don't have the correct ones to make her. And Matthew did a really great job of like capturing her look from the show while also making her fit in with like regular LEGO minifigures. So the custom 3D printed parts here are the torso and the headpiece. The arms and legs are just standard LEGO skeleton arms and legs. But I think it's so cool the way the like jacket drapes over the torso, yet it still has like the bar connections for the skeleton legs underneath. The hat looks amazing as well. This is exactly like her headpiece from the show. Now, something to note, this figure, as with all the other minifigures in this video, all of the prints that you see are actually decals, they're stickers. Because this was a project that Matthew was working on and I was talking to him about, we don't have access to a 3D printer or anything, so this is the next best alternative. So if you're comparing like the print quality of these to like other custom videos I've done, they're not going to be as high resolution just because we didn't have the technology. But the idea behind these figures is to focus more on the 3D models. Ideally, in the future, it'd be super cool to like actually print versions of these guys. But yeah, the decals work fairly good in the meantime. I love the expression on her too. It matches that like very casual look that she has in the show. There is of course still articulation on the arms and legs. There's actually pretty good clutch power. Because it is 3D printed, it's not always like one-to-one LEGO, but it's pretty darn close. Probably wouldn't stand up to like a kid rigorously playing with it, but for a collection on display, this works perfectly. Let me take these apart real quickly so you can see the individual pieces. All of the 3D printed parts are gray originally and then painted on top, so that's why the colors look a little bit off. Again, theoretically, we could have 3D printed this in white and then just painted the orange on top. top, but just like with the decals instead of prints, we're working with what we have. And there's Bonzle's head, which is of course based off the Ninjago Skulkin head, but obviously modified to have that hat molded on there. And as you saw a second ago, yeah, Matthew did also provide me unpainted versions of these, so these are like the raw 3D models, just like how they come out of the printer. Just look at that from the back too, and here's the head as well, again, very impressive. Next up, we have what is probably my favorite figure in this video, Mr. Frohicky. Now, Mr. Frohicky has become a pretty significant part of Ninjago Dragons Rising. He's the keeper of the monastery, and he has his little B-plots with Zane. And he's the kind of character that I suspect we're going to get an actual minifigure of at some point, just because he seems like that popular of a character. But I can't say for sure if that's going to happen, so in the meantime, this is very cool to have. And unlike the other two figures in this video, this one Matthew had to completely design himself, because Matthew could use like the Skulkin head as a basis for Bonzle, though obviously he had to modify it, and the next one did have an existing head you could use for a basis. This one though, he had to entirely base off the show, but I think it turned out like really good. You can see he's got like a tiny little scarf underneath his head just like he has in the show. The top and bottom parts of his mouth are very defined. He's got the little nostrils at the front. I love the shaping on this, it's genuinely amazing. And then Matthew did actually fully design this torso and legs based off the show. Once again, yes, it is decaled, so it's not like as vibrant as an official LEGO minifigure, but it does really tie this minifigure together. Like, he does feel complete to me. He's got a full back torso print for him too. Now this guy's actually interesting in that he went through a pretty big design change in the process. I have a prototype head right here from Matthew, which I'll show you in a moment. But before that, I want to quickly ask you guys to please leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. This, of course, was a very big project. I think Matthew was working on it probably for like 2 to 3 weeks pretty much straight. And the end result turned out very cool, and we would love to do more things like this for more Ninjago characters that don't have like official molds. So if this video does well and it gets a lot of support, it's definitely something we'll continue doing going forward. Also, let me know in the comments what other characters do you want to see us make customs of. Again, preferably characters that have some sort of custom mold to them, but it doesn't even necessarily have to be minifigures. Like, we've got Labo on our list, that might be something we do. I don't know, just characters from the show that aren't super easy to make customs of. Now here's a look at the Frohicky prototype versus the final version, of course both unpainted. You can see Matthew's original version was a lot smaller, and when he first sent it to me, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, and I think part of that was the angle, because it was from like this angle, and I thought it looked very lizard-like. Having it in hand though, it's honestly not too far off. I think this was definitely the better decision. I'm glad we made the changes we did, because the feedback I had was make the entire head a little bit bigger, bring the nose in a little bit, bring the cheeks out a little bit, and move the eyes slightly more to the front, and this version definitely ended up being more like the guy we know from the show. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to see like how much it changed. The scarf was a lot more prominent on this one, but again, I think this works. This one is pretty good, but this feels a lot more LEGO-like to me. And it captures the character's just entire essence a lot better. And finally, the last figure I have to show you in this video is Frak. Now, Frak is from Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 2 Part 2, so if you haven't watched Part 2 yet for some reason, go do it. It's out. It's been out for like a month now. But yeah, Frak is the elemental master of Quakes, and of course, if you're familiar with my channel, you know I love the Serpentine, I love the Whippers specifically, which I have one right here, and in the show, Frak is very clearly based off the Whippers. That's why I have him here to show like how they're similar and how they're different in terms of the minifigure, but there was a lot of back and forth between me and Matthew as he was designing this to try to figure out how to go about this. Because the thing about Frak in the show is it's really weird to figure out what the best way to do him is. Because basically his design is just this guy but with a shorter neck. But then he's got this like really elaborate Wolf Clan armor that accommodates for his neck, and we weren't sure how to go about that. At one point we were considering doing a custom molded armor piece to match his head, but we eventually decided to just stick with the official LEGO armor because that's what Cinder and Jordana wear. And in the show, aside from the neck piece that Frak has, all 3 armors are the same, so it made sense for them all to be the same in physical form too. Even if it's less accurate to the show, this feels more LEGO-like. Another part that had to be figured out was the neck. You can see on the original Mango Whipper figure, there's like this little lip that comes down onto the torso, and that looks really cool. It gives the figure some more depth. And in the show, Frak does have that too. The issue with that is the armor piece also comes out a little bit, so we weren't sure whether we should still extend his neck out or just leave that part out. We eventually decided that we should leave it out, and I think it was the right decision for one big reason, and that's because it allows Frak's head to still turn so we could properly pose him. Because while I love the Mango Whippers, they're constantly stuck looking in one direction. There's a very slight turn you can get, but it's like hardly anything. Frak, though, is a proper character in the show who could fully turn his head, so this gives the figure a lot more emotion, and I think that was definitely the right decision. And then the final thing we weren't sure about was the pupils. Because of course in the show Frak has pupils, but I wasn't sure whether or not we should include them on the minifigure, because he is very clearly based off a Whipper, and all the Whippers previously did have pupils in the show, but did not have them in the sets. So I was like, should we leave his eyes pupilless so he's more accurate to the other Whippers? But Matthew was advocating for including them, and I think that was definitely the right choice, because yeah, this doesn't feel like a LEGO-fication of this figure, this does just actually feel like Frak. He's got the little mane at the back too, which the normal Whippers have as well, but it's a little more prominent here. And then of course, yes, once again we have another custom decaled torso, and then I just gave him Jordana's legs. It's not 100% accurate to the show, but it's close enough, and it makes him fit in with that full collection. Technically in the show, his eyes and mane are like slightly greener, they're like a greenish yellow. Matthew decided to go more yellow when painting them, and I think it looks fine. It still feels like Frak to me. If I really want to, I have the unpainted version, I could go back and make another one, but nah, this turned out really cool, I'm quite happy with him. And it's interesting to see, despite being based off of this guy, these figures end up looking very different. But I love how Matthew was actually able to capture his personality. His snout's like moved back a little bit, and his face is a little chunkier too, which I think is good. It just makes him feel more alive. There's a full look at the custom decal torso too, as well as on the back. Yeah, this guy's awesome. He's one of my favorite new characters of the show, and from the first time I saw him, I knew I wanted him in sets. Still really hoping that happens, but in the meantime, very happy to have a custom. This guy looks great. And here's a quick look at the unpainted version of Frak's head. You can see the eyes are like molded in there, the teeth are very prominent, and there's where the neck attaches, there's a little mane out the back. Very, very cool. But there we go, there is all 3 custom 3D printed Dragons Rising minifigures that Matthew designed. Again, I cannot say this enough, please go check him out on Instagram. This project was entirely him, I just gave him some feedback. I appreciate him working with me for this video for my channel. But yeah, go show him the support, he deserves it. Here's a quick look at all of his minifigures with other minifigures that go with them. We have Zane and Frohicky, Cole, Bonzle, and Geo. Geo's, by the way, a custom I covered last week, go check that video out if you haven't yet. And then Lord Raz, Cinder, Jordana, and Frak. Let me know what you guys think of these figures in the comments below, and as I said, what figures should we make next? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to my channel if you're new. Thanks for watching everybody, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.